Hey guys, so we've taken a look at the Master Grade Zeta 1.0, we've taken a look at the Zeta Plus C1 Master Grade, which came out a few years later, and now we're skipping ahead to 2005 here for this release. This is the Master Grade Zeta 2.0. Now, even though it's a 2.0 and we generally think of 2.0s as kind of much more recent, 2005 does seem quite a ways back. It's almost 20 years ago now, 18 years ago for this, so it's still, it's still a 2.0, but it's not a very recent 2.0 by any means. And so with the Master Grade Ver.Ka Zeta release right around the corner, it's going to be interesting to see how they compare to each other, but this is the most recent release of the Master Grade Zeta Gundam ahead of the Ver.Ka, so let's go ahead and check it out, see what it's all about. We got some really cool box art here of the Zeta Gundam in quite an iconic pose there. Some would say the Ale Strike pose, almost, but if you take a look up close, you can see some really nice lighting effects and weathering, very, very similar to the type of box art that we're seeing on a lot of recent Master Grades. And again, this is 18 years ago, so the artwork for boxes changes over time, but this is a good example of one that was maybe very ahead of its time. There's the side of the box there. And on one side of the box here, we got to look at the kit front and back, all built and painted and decaled. There, we got a few poses over here showing some of the posing options with this. Of course, it does transform and comes with this included launch base there as well. Another nice feature of this. There it is in Wave Rider mode. And then on the other side, here it is with the Hyper Mega Launcher, an accessory which the Ver.Ka is unfortunately not going to come with. So that's already, the fact that this comes with a base and the Hyper Mega Launcher already gives this one a good head start above the Ver.Ka, I've got to say, but there's some of the pilot and crew little figures getting there. So we'll see. And with that, let's go ahead and pop the box on this guy. This is an older Master Grade, but unfortunately not old enough that we get the insert there with the nice big cardboard piece that has the photograph of the painted kit. So we just got our runners here, which we'll get to in just a moment. And here we have the instruction manual, which just has the same artwork from the front of the box, but it seems a bit wider, kind of like a little bit more of a full image of that. On the back side here is our painting guide. That's all there in Japanese, as all of this is going to all be in Japanese. Obviously 2005 was long before we started getting any English in the manual, but there's your painting guide for the pilot and crew there as well. Let's just go ahead and skip to the middle pages here since we're taking a look at photos first. There's different versions, the 1985 1/44 scale version, the 1985 1/100 scale version, so the original model kits of the Zeta Gundam. We had the MG 1.0, which we did take a look at. Not a bad kit at all. It really was pretty nice, I gotta say, considering that was 1996. And then in 2001, we saw the release of the PG. Now, I've not built that, and I will not be building that at this time, but maybe someday in the future, we'll take a look at that as well. And then, of course, we have the HGUC, and now we have the HGUC Revive, which is even better. The HGUC Revive is a fantastic kit, highly recommended for you guys. And here's a cool size comparison there for you guys. Down here at the bottom then is focused strictly on the 2.0, showing you some of the gimmicks and features of the 2.0 there. Bunch of photographs of the transformation as well. Back up to the front of the manual then, here we have a bunch of information all in Japanese about the Zeta Gundam, showing you what all the different parts are of the design. And then on the next page we've got our parts list here showing all of that. The rest of this is just going to be the construction then. So we do have some of our nice mechanical illustrations in here. Here you can see for the head and the body unit right there. On the next page for the waist and leg unit, another really nice illustration. And the next page about the tail stabilizers and wings. Not quite as much like internal detail with that one, but still a really cool illustration. Love to see those in the manuals. Got one here for the shield and beam rifle and hyper mega launcher right there as well. And then we're getting to the end of the construction, so probably the last bit here is just going to focus on posing the kit. There you can connect the base with the base that's included with the version 2.0 of the Gundam Mark II as well. And then about the decal placement right there for you, and then the transformation. So the transformation is all here at the end. Not too bad a transformation. Now I've not built this kit before, but I've built the gray Zeta, which is actually orange, not gray, but it basically should be the same transformation. As I remember, it wasn't that bad. For our stickers and decals, we've got some foil stickers here, mostly just for the eyes and a couple of cameras, but then all of our little yellow accents are going to be stickers here, looks like. We've also got some marking decal stickers here for a bunch of our markings, and then some of the main markings and some of the smaller ones as well are here on a dry transfer decal sheet as well. So those of you guys who do like dry transfer decals, that's nice to see. We got SB1 for our clear pink beam saber effect parts, and our polycaps here in gray, which are actually runner K, but I'm just going to go ahead and show those to you guys first. They're in gray. Our A runner is here in 4 colors, clear up there for the clear parts in the head, red, and a nice slightly orangish yellow color for the accents, and then some of that dark navy blue. Runner B is going to be the rest of our red parts here for the kit. We've got 2 of those. Runner C is a bunch of our white pieces, including our pilot figures there in 1/100 scale, obviously parts for the legs, the head, the skirt armor, and all that. Runner D we also have 2 of for the rest of our white armor pieces. Runner E is in a very nice blue color there, you can see for some of the blue parts, including for the Hyper Mega Launcher, and the rest of our blue parts here on Runner F, which we have 2 of these as well. Runner G is a really big runner here with the rest of our dark navy blue parts, mostly parts there for the backpack and some rifle parts on there as well. Then we're getting into the parts for the inner frame. Runner H here is a bunch of nice parts for the frame in gray. And then runners I and J are inner frame parts in ABS plastic. So runner I with a whole bunch of parts on there. Runner J we have 2 of, so this is going to be mostly parts for in the arms and legs, again all in gray ABS plastic. Lastly then runner M in black is some more connection pieces for the launch base. And runner N in yellow is the parts for the V-fin, and that's it. Alright guys, so here it is all built up, and quite interesting, and it certainly felt kind of familiar with the build. I mean, it's a really nice kit, I have to say, really happy with it. There's a couple things that I want to talk about it where it might have a couple points of issue, but otherwise, I mean, of course, it's still a very solid kit now going on 18 years of age. But I have to say, putting the kit together, it definitely did feel, you know, familiar, because I have recently built the 1.0 and the, I'm just going to call it the 1.5 so you guys know what I'm talking about, but I'm talking about the Zeta Plus C1. It's basically like a 1.5, just in terms of the overall design and the structure. Just to see how the engineering progressed from the different releases now up to the 2.0. I feel like once we get to comparing this with the Ver.Ka, one thing that we're going to focus quite a lot on is just the fact that it's different, you know, in details and proportions, and that's certainly something that's different about this and the 1.0, and we'll take a look at a comparison between this and the 1.0 here in just a little bit. But of course, we've also got some great accessories with this one. I feel like amongst the different releases, this one probably has the best assortment of accessories, so let's go ahead and start with those. And so let's start off from the ground up here with the included base. Now it's pretty nice and simple. You'll notice here is where the Gundam can stand. These parts here can lift up like that, and they can only be down in this position because once you move this along this track, you can see these parts are automatically going to lift up, and you can move this along anywhere on the track here. In order to extend the arm of the base up, you need to remove that off there. This will fold up. This back part locks into that back slot right there. And this part actually plugs into the end, and this will be what actually holds the Gundam up on there. So sort of like your action base adapter. And as you can see, there's like multiple different slots. So that would be the highest that it can go, which I imagine will have the Gundam like kind of straight up and down. But you can angle this a little bit further down, so if you wanted to have the Gundam kind of pointing forward, and we'll see how well that works. You do also have an adapter piece for if you wanted to use this stand with the Gundam Mark II. But the nice thing is that both of these adapter pieces, when not in use, can fit underneath the base. That one right there, and this one right there like that. So that's really nice to have a place to store those. We can also store the missile pods here. Now those just are plugged right up underneath the base. In use on the Gundam, these will plug onto the back of the forearm right there. And these have the handy use of sliding forward, and it should pop open the missile doors here on the front. Well, it's going to pop it open a little bit. I guess that's going to be about the extent of it, but it's enough that then you can fold it the rest of the way by hand. Let's see, mine's kind of stuck. I think it's hung up there on that wrist part. There we go. So that pops open the door, and then you can see your little missile sticking out the end there. Slide that back. You can close that back up. Let me try that again here without putting pressure on the wrist. Yeah, it just kind of pops it open enough that then you can fold it down the rest of the way, like so. But anyway, next weapon here is going to be the beam saber, which is stored up inside these side skirts right here, the handle anyway. You can pop that handle out, and it's just a simple gray handle here. And we've got our 2 clear pink 1/100 scale beam saber effect parts there for that. For the shield, it's going to be pretty straightforward here, but some nice detail on that. This is collapsible. You simply just slide it in and out like that, and this will also just plug onto the back of the forearm. The beam rifle itself also has a collapsing gimmick where the barrel can go in and out like that. You have a couple of yellow stickers here and also a sticker for the clear part for the camera, but there is a plain clear part in there if you didn't want to use the sticker for that. The camera will fold down. The handle also folds forward like so. For the transformation, you can see here's the part that we're going to use for plugging this onto the mobile suit when it's transformed into its Wave Rider mode. One other thing that you can do with this is you can plug one of your beam saber effect parts here into the barrel of the beam rifle, like so, to use it as a melee weapon. And then we've got the Hyper Mega Launcher, which comes in at 26.5 centimeters and then 29 centimeters when you extend it out to its full length like that. This one also has the handle underneath. Fold this part down, fold down the main handle right there. The handles on the sides also, you can fold out these parts and fold out these for the secondary handles on there like that. And you can see here, just like with the beam rifle and with the beam saber handles, you have a little hole in there for tabbing into the hand, so that should give you a little bit better grip on that. Not present here on the secondary handles though, I will mention. Lastly, the only other moving part here on this will just be this part here on the top that can press in, or you can pull that back out to be extended up like so. And even though this is basically just two halves for like the main body of the Hyper Mega Launcher, they made it as a panel line detail all the way around this, so you don't necessarily really have to worry about the seam line removal there on this. And on that note, the same goes for the regular beam rifle. The seam line is just made up as a panel line, except for on the little ammo pack here, the E-pack, I believe it is. I'm trying to take this up. I can't even get it off there now. So anyway, the point I was just going to make was that you do have a seam line on that part, unfortunately, but otherwise pretty good in the way of not too many seam lines, really. Nothing really worth noting here on the main kit itself. Now, last couple accessories we do have is a 1/100 scale standing pilot figure there in the pilot suit, and then a kind of crew member here, sort of like a deck crew that you can put on the launch pad base. And those are really nice. So as for the main kit itself, let's talk a little bit more about this in detail. And just to start off, for the stickers, you've got stickers for the eyes, the head camera on the front and on the back, although it's going to be very difficult to actually see that there because of this kind of cowl around the back side. You've got stickers for these little yellow accents on the front and back of the shoulders right up there. For the sides of the arms, those are little yellow stickers. And then for these accents right here on the front and back of the legs, not the one down there, that's a yellow piece, that's the same yellow part as the vent there, but up at the top, that's going to be separate. And there's a few points that I want to make in this video about things that I hope will be improved from this kit in the Ver.Ka, and one of them would be these yellow accents. So like these accents right there in the arms and in the legs, I'm hoping that those will not be stickers and that those will be separate yellow pieces than Ver.Ka. I have a feeling that maybe they will be, but that's just one thing that I wanted to point out to you guys. So now let's talk about some of the articulation. So the head will go up if you don't press it in. So because of the transformation, the head is meant to press in. While moving the head around, it is kind of easy to just press it in accidentally. But if you don't do that, the head will go up to about there, which is not too bad. I kind of wish that that was able to point up a little bit more. That would mean that it needs a better neck joint, which is just kind of difficult due to the transformation. But again, hopefully maybe that'll be better a little bit in the Ver.Ka. Goes down to about there. For the shoulder, that will move in and out a little bit there. You can bring the arm up if you extend this part up and kind of move the shoulder armor a little bit out of the way. Still going to be limited to only about 90 degrees perpendicular to the body there for the upward movement of the arm, unfortunately. Rotation there at the top, double joint here at the elbow. Of course, the wrist is on a ball joint, but then you also have a hinge for the wrist to bend in and out like that. And then as you guys can see, the fingers are separated as the thumb is on a single ball joint, the first finger is on a ball joint by itself, and the second, third, and fourth fingers are connected, but you can slice those. Very easy modification to make. Just take your hobby knife, cut those apart because they each have their own ball joint, but they are connected there at the base. You can cut them apart for individual articulation if you want. Moving down here to the ab section, you would think because of the transformation you won't have any articulation in here, but you do have a little bit. So you have a little bit of movement here. It's mostly just kind of side to side, as you can see there like that. Front to back, there's going to be kind of a very slight amount of ab crunch, though not really too much. You can, of course, also open up the cockpit, and your seated pilot figure is right up inside there. Pretty easy cockpit hatch open. Down here for the skirt armor, Again, unfortunately, and hopefully this will improve with the Ver.Ka, it's just a single piece. There's not like a separate mechanical part, like a gray part in to go behind the front skirt, though there is a lot of nice detail there. There's no part itself. The side skirts on this are strange as they're actually attached at like the hip joint, so sort of similar like how the shoulder joints or the shoulder armor is usually kind of attached around the same peg that the arm plugs into. That's how the side skirts work as well, and I don't really like it. It does make it so that they're able to, I mean, I know that the purpose of that is for the transformation, so it's kind of okay, but just when you're putting it together, it just makes it a little bit more tricky. But as you can see, the side skirt armor is able to move around anywhere where you might need. The back skirt, if we open up the backpack here a little bit, you can see that is also able to move a little bit, though not really too much. While we're here and on the topic, might as well just mention that the backpack, of course, has movement built into it as it is in mobile suit form. It's just kind of meant to just be like that. The tail stabilizer here can move up and down, and of course no LED gimmick like we saw with the 1.0. That was a really nice feature, although it was kind of didn't work all that well. It was an interesting feature of the 1.0, but that is missing from the 2.0. What instead we get is some nice color separation of this part right there, but again, as it's a mobile suit form, it's kind of meant to just be like that basically. And now getting into the legs, which is probably the most difficult aspect of this kit. You have some pretty nice movement up here at the top of the leg. They can move out to the side. You can bring these pretty far up to the front as well. And as you can see right up there, you've got some rotation at the top of the thigh. Also, once you get down to the knee, just because of the transformation, it's going to be kind of wonky. And you've got a double joint, but this part's going to come disattached, and it's kind of tricky to get that hooked back on there, but anyway, there. So you have to try to move the knees very carefully and intentionally as to not unhook that, but then also not have it looking like the knees are going backwards. But it's really difficult to get the kit to have the knees so that they don't look like they're going backwards. You can kind of have it like that. And then this knee armor here on the front, you have to remember to kind of point that out so that it's not looking like it's like tucked in there like that as well. And once you get everything, well, see there, it just came undone again. My point is that you can try to get the knees like as straight as possible, but just so that you can do a nice standing pose. And then down here at the ankles, the other unfortunate aspect of this is just the way that this is balanced for when you're just trying to have it just standing and just like a straight up and down standing pose. All of the weight is kind of balanced here at the ankles, so it's going to want to lean backwards. The point of the center of gravity of it needs to be a bit farther forward in the leg so that it's actually able to balance more. The whole front of the foot is kind of pointless when it comes to standing. It doesn't really do anything except just you can pose it, you can try to get it to be kind of centered out, but if you want to have this kit just standing straight up and down, it's a bit of a chore and it's not easy to do, and it's kind of wobbly. And I mean, you can do it definitely, but there's definitely a little bit of a trick to it. Up underneath the feet there, you can see what the detail looks like there. And so the toe won't point down at all. This front piece of armor here moves like that. The toe will move up just fine like so. But yeah, so what you'll find if you just want to try to just get it in a plain standing pose like this, you know, you want it to be kind of upright and you can lean it forward a slight bit, but unless you're gonna like lean it all the way forward like that, that's gonna be looking kind of weird because now he's like obviously leaning forward way too much, and then it's just going to, you can see even when I let it go, you can see it's kind of rocking back a little bit because it's rocking back to the weight being there at the ankles. So that's the other point that I hope is going to be fixed with the Ver.Ka, is that the legs, especially the knees and the ankles, are designed in a better way. I mean, because the difficult part is that they have to transform, right? But they need to be done in a way that the kit is able to just stand without having any problems just standing as well. But again, the nice thing with this is that we have the base, so you really don't even need to worry about having it standing because you can just keep it up on the included base all the time, which is what I imagine most people are probably going to want to do with this kit. But let's go ahead and take a look at it in some poses and see what it looks like transformed as well. All right, one more thing we'll take a look at here is the comparison just side by side with 1.0 and 2.0. I mean, the 1.0, I felt that, you know, it's definitely very old. It's from 1996. It's one of the first master grades out in the entire line. It's most definitely an aged and dated kit. That said, not that bad of a kit just in terms of the overall looks of it. But now seeing them side by side, I mean, you can just tell how much nicer the 2.0 looks in comparison. That said, I do still feel that the 1.0 is a pretty nice looking kit just in terms of the overall design, the proportions of it. In terms of just like the surface detail, there's really not too much difference between the two. I mean, they both basically share a similar amount of surface detail, but one interesting difference with the 2.0 is just how much sharper the angles are, like around on the skirting armor, the feet, the ankles, the legs, everything's like sharpened up, where you have some sort of like soft rounded corners around on all like the edges on the 1.0. So I mean, overall, of course, there's no question that the 2.0 is going to be the vastly superior kit. I honestly think the 1.0 still stands up pretty well now, considering that it's 27 years old. If you know what you're getting yourself into, there's going to be quite a lot of work to put into it to get it to look really, really nice, to get it to look its best. But the 1.0, I think, still looks pretty nice. Is a good looking version of the Zeta Gundam. That said, of course, the 2.0 here, I think, is, as some people have pointed out, it's much more anime accurate, and just overall the better looking kit, as you'll see here as we get to taking a look at some of the poses here with this. A couple things to point out is that if you did want to put this on any other kind of action base other than the included base, we don't have an action base adapter included here with this. So what you would have to use would be like the fork style adapter that you get with like your action base 1, I think, 1 or 2, the 1/100 scale action bases. But again, as I said earlier, I expect most people are probably going to just want to use the included base. It's nice, it's very cool. It has a couple of points of articulation, which will allow you to get the Gundam into basically any pose that you want. The only difficulty is that you can't rotate it, you can't change the angle of it. It's always going to be pointing straight ahead. But I mean, that does make sense considering that it's made to look like a launching base. So as far as the stability of the kit goes in like mobile suit form, you don't have any issues with the beam rifle, the shield. Of course, with the hyper mega launcher, you're just going to have a little bit of an issue just because of how large it is. But I mean, you can pose it well enough. You just have to get everything kind of moved around in a way that you can reach the handles and you can have it in a pose that looks sort of natural. With a weapon that large, obviously you're going to have limited options in terms of the pose that you might want to do with that, but it's still a really cool weapon, and I'm glad that it was included here with this. And it's blue this time around, whereas with the 1.0 it was gray, if that makes any difference to you. Honestly, I think it kind of looks better in gray, but it's blue, which I think is, again, is more anime accurate here with this version of it. But the fact that the 2.0 here comes with the hyper mega launcher, it comes with the base, these are two things that, at least at this point, we know are not going to be included with the Ver.Ka. I mean, that's definitely a big advantage to the 2.0. If you're wondering which version you should go for, the 2.0 now is 18 years old, so it's certainly an older master grade as well, but I think it still holds up really well. If you were to tell me that this came out in 2015 and not 2005, I honestly wouldn't doubt that. It seems like there's not really probably too much that would have changed about it over that 10-year period. Now, if it were to come out in 2023, like the Ver.Ka is, we can expect that there's probably going to be some significant updates in terms of the engineering of the kit. But again, at the end of the day, it still has to transform in the same way. I mean, there is a particular way that the Zeta Gundam is supposed to transform between its mobile suit form and its Wave Rider form, and it's not like they can completely change how the mobile suit transforms. So I expect that the Ver.Ka is going to be very similar in a lot of ways. It's going to be very familiar. Most of the differences are going to be aesthetic differences. It'll be interesting to see what kind of mechanical engineering differences there are with the new one now that Bandai has, of course, progressed 18 years in terms of their technology and what they're able to do with kits since the release of this 2.0. And one quick note on the transformation, yeah, it's a complicated process, but if you just follow the manual slowly and carefully, it actually transforms very solidly. It's a really nice transformation. It holds the shape really well. It looks like it's supposed to look. One thing that it is missing though in comparison to the 1.0 is that it doesn't have any landing gear option parts. So if you did want to have it just sat like on the ground or just sat on top of this launch base, you don't have any landing gear parts that you can swap out for that. So that's one thing that this doesn't have that the 1.0 did include. And as one final point on that note, before we wrap up the review here, I just hope that the Ver.Ka will not use any ABS plastic, as most of the entire inner frame of this kit is in ABS. It's fine, it works well enough, but as you guys may know, if you're into painting Gunpla, ABS is not the ideal form of plastic. If it was just all polystyrene, it would be preferable. So hopefully that's what we see with the Ver.Ka, but we'll have to find out. If you guys are interested in checking out some more Gunpla paints, tools, and supplies, you can check the link in the video description to USA Gundam store down below the video. Thank you guys all so much for your support. I hope that you've enjoyed taking a look back at the 1.0, the 1.5, aka the Zeta Plus C1, and the 2.0 here. So now we just have to wait for the Zeta Ver.Ka. I've got a couple of the Zeta things that I do want to take a look at, and we'll hopefully get to those before the Ver.Ka releases, but I'm looking forward to that. If you guys have enjoyed the reviews, definitely make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and I just thank you guys all so much for your support. Until the next time, hope you all have a great day. See y'all later. Bye guys.